Join internationally acclaimed overland expert Paul Marsh and award-winning journalist Gregory Simpson as they delve into all things responsible overlanding. From choosing the right vehicle, getting yourself prepared, getting your vehicle prepared, safety tips, and much, much more. Only on Responsible Overlanding. You seem to have a very philosophical approach to life and overlanding. It's a beautiful thing to listen to.
Thank you. It's actually, I guess it's part of what resonates inside me. So, overlanding, and I say that to people when they come with their dream. A dream is part of the story. Okay, it's part of what we're going to do in a process-driven system that we're going to put together. So from the concept of you thinking about your dream to you making the decision that you're actually this is going to happen, you're going to make it. And that's the hardest decision. When you look at someone and you say, well, we are going to drive through Africa. You've crossed the most difficult hurdle. And once you put it out there, you've actually made a public statement to people. And so you've made a more bigger commitment to yourself. It's not resonating in your head. It's now a commitment. So how do you drive that? And that's where often the next hurdle comes. And then you look for someone to assist you and guide you, and and I think that's so important when you look at that dream and how you move through. And the philosophy behind it all is, for me, it gives it depth. If I'm looking at it, overlanding is a massively big topic, and there's so many facets to it. And people take different avenues and they highlight it, and it's beautiful. We learn a lot. For me, I like the philosophical side of it, because I think that as a human, it gives me an ability to connect more with me through nature. And if it's a couple, it often gives us that ability to connect together. And how beautiful is that, when people come to connect together and they can move out. And if they're using an overland trip as the vehicle, excuse the pun, to actually do that, it's actually very powerful. Because a lot of my clients who've approached me they're either retired, and at the end of your sort of working life, for many people, you've driven a career, your wife's had a career, and now you've really got to cement back the two of you to walk alongside one another, because you're not going to have that distraction of your careers. You've retired. I don't like the term retirement. I kind of think
retire, perspire.
yeah, and I think it's such an outdated term, but that's my personal view. I feel that you change energy and direction. Okay, so it's like a river changing a course. And in that point, when people come to me, I really want to sit and say, you know what a beautiful opportunity you have, because those are your interests, so they've each got interests. And all we're doing is we're taking a vehicle, we're going to take the platform of traveling overland and give you a great opportunity to go and explore beautiful parts of the world. And if your interest is photography and your wife's is painting, well, they can both happen. It's just how you choose to put that foundation in place so you make that reality happen.
Is that one of the best parts of your job, where you can see the marriages being fortified?
People don't always, I would say, take time to look back, to step back. It's often we're driving in the moment to make things happen. We want to see progress. We want to see things day by day we're achieving. And for me, it's about the relationship that people have with themselves together. And then, of course, they take away and they go and explore in nature. And simplicity is every single thing important. Because if you have a simple vehicle that you've built up, you take away a lot of complexities, a lot of concerns, a lot of worries. Do you need the complexities? Nice to have. It's like, you can have a home which is electronically controlled, a smart house, as they call it. And nothing wrong with that. It's great. It adds a complexity. Do you need it? No, you don't need it. Nice to have.
God gave you feet to go and put the light switch on.
Yeah, but exactly that. So it's a question of simplifying, and when you simplify your life, and I use the same process when we're building vehicles and I'm advising people. You take away the distractions, you take away the complexities. So you get to focus on what's really important. So when I'm driving in the bush, I actually don't really want to start worrying about my vehicle. I want to know it's going to get me there, and I'll maintain it and I'll check it over, and that's for sure. But the less worry I have, I want to take in the beautiful scenery, and I want to drive down that road knowing I'm not going to have a problem. I'm confident in my knowledge, my experience, and together we have built the strength and being able to do things together so we can confidently share the roles and responsibilities.
That's where the Toyota brand and other Japanese brands come in, because you can give you that peace of mind motoring.
You know, it's not take away what other vehicle brands out there can do. I think it's like anything, you know, everything can work. You know, if you're saying to me, which is the best vehicle, you know, will this vehicle work? And I'll say, well, you could make any vehicle work. You can drive across the desert in an old banged out car if you really want to. There's going to be compromises. There's going to be problems. There's going to be challenges. What level are you looking to achieve? You know, and so some of it's born out of brand awareness, where people have been well marketed to, and that's all they know because that's the information they've had given to them. So, you know, that brand sticks in their mind. If you can open your mind up and say, well, actually, let's just take the brands out of it now. What are my priorities when I'm going to go overlanding? Okay. For me, my values are very simple and clear. It's got to be simple. It's got to be safe. It's got to be reliable. So those are three key basic values that I always say to people. Let's go back to the values. Okay. Because if we endorse the values, it's going to help us choose what we want. Now, in some parts of the world, you maybe don't get the most ideal vehicle that you want. And I think when I'm choosing, and that's a whole other topic, but really when you're going down that avenue to choose a vehicle, I think people can often go, you know what, it's not that it can't work like that, it can. So, you know, you're never going to find the most perfect scenario. You buy a home, and they'll often say to you, move in and live in it first before you start trying to make all the changes. Because you've redesigned the whole home before you've moved in, and actually some of this stuff's probably okay to live with. So it's that compromise. Well, what are you actually happy to just accept that that'll work? And how much change is actually driven by necessity, and how much is driven by a need to fill a gap and a space?
You built the Patrol 4 driven to extremes. Any reason why you chose that vehicle in particular?
Yeah, it was very clear. Shell don't have an affiliation with Toyota.
Okay.
They do with Land Rover.
So that's the best car you could find that wasn't a Toyota.
I wanted the simplest vehicle that I knew, and actually the Nissans had a more reliable track record, so the choice was Land Rover. At that time, I still don't feel that they would have given us the reliability that I wanted, and I compared it. Would I have taken a Toyota? Yeah, I probably would have chosen Toyota as my first brand, but I loved the Nissans. They were great. They were just solid. It was the
what engine were you running in that one?
It's a Y61 body shape, so it's an old body shape, and we imported them from the Middle East, so they were left-hand drive, and they were 4.2 diesel, much like the 1HZ. Yeah,
if you blindfolded, sometimes you could drive a Patrol and think it's a Land Cruiser.
You know, they were great. We actually, and I drove many thousands of miles across Russia, Siberia, China, Mongolia, Malaysia. So it was an incredible vehicle.
Expedition of a lifetime.
But then I've driven a 110 hardtop down the length of South America, and I love that. You know, so it's, again, I go back to it. You know, we choosing when we make choices in our lives because we have a set of parameters we work to. And I think if you define those parameters clearly, and so budget comes into it when you're looking at how much is this going to cost me? Can I afford this? It doesn't mean to say because you can't afford it that you should go for that brand. You know, if you can't afford it and that's your realm and you want to go exploring overlanding. I mean, I've had guys I've known who've taken, I've got one client and actually he took a Beetle and they put a rooftop tent on it and they went up into Africa.
Light car?
I mean, it's just, you know, and he's got amazing stories, and trust me, I'm sure he had his challenges, and I was so touched by the story, and it was in the 60s, and he said, yeah, he shared with me some of the photographs. So, you know, it is much more about looking at what are your values, and how are you going to actually build them into what you do. And I guess, you know, overlanding is much like when you're living your life in a different lane, let's say, or a different road. So you know, we're in our lifestyle now where we've got everything we need around us. We've got shops, we've got cinemas, we've got everything we need. So we can have pretty much anything we want. When you move into the bush, you've got different things around you. You've got a beautiful viewpoint you can go and look at. So, you take on different responsibilities. And I think that's a key thing. It doesn't mean that it's less stressful. That's where people can often make the mistake. And I think we've spoken about this previously, how you can just become programmed to do stuff without thinking about it. And that is dangerous, because you're not focused, you're not thinking about something, and suddenly you arrive somewhere. It's like doing exercise and your mind's somewhere else totally. How good do you feel after that exercise? Because your mind wasn't even engaged. Or when you're eating something, if your wife's prepared a lovely meal for you, or you sat down and you prepared a dinner together, and you can take the time to enjoy it. How much better is that? How much more enjoyable is it? I think all too often we don't take that time. So perhaps COVID has given us that time where we can actually mindfully think more about how we do things, how we treat people, what do we want out of our lives.
Homeschooling and more people taking the kids on the road. Are you seeing that, especially with COVID?
It's fascinating. My heart goes out to the parents, because I haven't had children and Joe hasn't had children, and I must say, we think that people have taken on and embraced homeschooling. Hats off to you. Because if I think about the respect we owe our teachers that have taught us. Now, when you grow up in life, your teachers have an impact on your life. Your parents have an impact on your life. Your friends, your parents' friends, So it takes, as my brother-in-law always said to me, he said, Paul, it takes a community to bring up a child. It's not just a person or a parent. It's not easy homeschooling, but there's some amazing opportunities these days with technology. So, technology, as much as it can be distracting, technology is actually our friend. It just depends.
If used correctly.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Greg. You absolutely have. And I think that's where it all goes wrong, when people don't actually use technology correctly. Who's the master of the technology? So our phone is a great example. Okay, so come the end of the day, 5:05, our phones, they go to sleep. We don't actually want to answer them. If it's an emergency, someone can ring. But quite honestly, that's our time out. We want to unplug from that technology. We had it all day. And I found, by being more disciplined, how I manage my phone, my calls, my, all the things that you've got different media platforms, it can suck your energy and it can distract you to such a point that actually, at the end of the day, you look back and you go, well, how did I use my time? But you got so distracted with all the things that actually there was no real focus.
And you don't need an update from Pete Pompies.
You actually, so all that comes in, all that information feeds in, and we feel we've got to respond to it. I'm guilty of that. I've got to respond to this. Someone just emailed, I've got to respond.
Especially now, there's so much information flying around.
Yeah. But actually, if you can acknowledge an email to someone and say, thank you for your email, I will get back to you. So I'm trying to be more disciplined about when I do certain things in my week, just to manage my time better. So, and I find that, by taking certain days, I will just take phone calls. And if I'm having a discovery call with someone and having a chat to them, or it's a consult, or it's training, I try and specify certain days. And of course, the technology has allowed that, and people who are now taking their children on travel trips. And that's been happening for years. But now it's just been made.
The stigma's almost gone now.
I think people have had to just deal with it. So the fear is not so much there anymore. It's like, oh, we can do this. Okay. It doesn't take away the teachers and the value the teachers add, because we still need.
And you see how much work these guys are putting in when you have to do it yourself.
Enormous. So, I think any respect to any teacher, that there's a lot behind the scenes for your children.
I mean, they are it's a very important job for the next generation.
Yeah. Any form of teaching, we're teaching, we're sharing our knowledge, we're sharing our passion. But in that environment for young children, young minds that are actually learning and being influenced for growth, it's lovely to think that people are prepared to take that on. And of course, you are working in conjunction with the teachers.
Can we get overlanding as a subject in school?
Yeah, I've often thought about that, actually.
I mean, your skill set would be manna from heaven. Even a kid from the townships that's never been into the bush before.
You know what? Just imagine you can give that experience, and that's what parents do when they come to me and they're going, "I'm going to take my children on a long trip," and I go, "Fantastic. Let's figure out how we're going to do this." And I get calls often from people who want to take their children on long trips. Okay, and so again, you can go down the road of the fear element.
Yeah. What are the neighbors going to think?
Well, what are the neighbors going to think? What's out there? How dangerous is it? But as much as that comes at you, you can actually look for solutions and put things in place and go, we can do this. People do it. And the interesting experience when you come back, that no one loses out. I probably won't be popular with the educational board, but to be honest, the way schooling is happening, where people are having to distance learn. Well, I wouldn't criticize the curriculum, because I don't, it's a long time since I was in school.
It's not our learning.
But I do think that, the way things are being packaged for us to learn these days is, on very good media. How many times, how many people are doing courses at home now? They're learning, they're watching to learn from, YouTube. They're learning from Udemy. That's
the
giving courses out.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is a phenomenal educator, and I think that's just incredible. People are giving their knowledge out. Jo's done the same. She's spent the last 6 weeks putting together courses, putting together content that she's sharing, and I think it's just beautiful that people are being so generous with their time and putting it out there, because we're all benefiting from it.